Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most beloved and fascinating tales from African folklore, The Adventures of Anansi, a Spider's Wisdom. This story is not just about a clever spider, but about intelligence, wit, and the eternal human desire to outsmart challenges. Anansi, the Trickster, is a cultural icon across West Africa and the Caribbean, and his adventures have entertained generations while teaching valuable lessons about wisdom, pride, and cunning. The story of Anansi begins in a time when animals could talk and the world was full of magic and mystery. Anansi was small, fragile, and seemingly weak compared to the larger animals around him. Lions ruled the land with power, elephants possessed strength, and leopards were feared for their ferocity. But Anansi had something more powerful than muscles: his mind. He believed that even the smallest creature could outwit the strongest if they used their brains wisely. Anansi was known far and wide as the spider who loved to play tricks, but he was not wicked. His mischief always carried a lesson. He lived with his wife, Aso, who was equally clever, and together they often found themselves in situations where they had to use their wits to survive or teach others a valuable truth. The world they lived in was governed by Nyame, the sky god, who owned all the wisdom of the world. Anansi desired to possess that wisdom, not out of greed, but because he believed that wisdom should belong to everyone, not kept hidden by one god. One day, Anansi decided to climb up to the heavens and speak to Nyame. He told the sky god that he wanted to buy the stories of the world so that he could share them with all living beings. Nyame laughed at the tiny spider's request. He told Anansi that if he truly wanted the stories, he would have to bring him 3 dangerous creatures: Anini the python, Asibo the leopard, and Mmaboro the hornets. Everyone thought this task was impossible. How could a small spider catch such mighty beings? But Anansi smiled. He knew his greatest strength lay not in force but in clever thinking. Anansi first went to find Anini the python. He had heard that the python loved to show off his size and strength. So Anansi came up with a plan. He told his wife Aso to prepare a long palm branch and some vines. Then he went to Anini and said, "Anini, I heard people saying you're not as long as the bamboo in the forest. I told them you are much longer, but they laughed at me." Anini, being proud, slithered out and said, "I am longer than any bamboo." Anansi pretended to measure but said, "It's hard to tell unless you lie straight along this branch." The python stretched himself out proudly, and before he could react, Anansi quickly tied him up with vines from head to tail. The python hissed angrily, but it was too late. Anansi had caught him. He carried the heavy snake back to Nyame as his first prize. Next, Anansi went to catch Asibo the leopard. He dug a deep hole in the ground and covered it with leaves. Later that night, Asibo came walking by and fell straight into the trap. In the morning, Anansi appeared, pretending to be shocked. "Oh, poor Asibo, how did you fall into that hole?" Asibo growled and demanded help. Anansi said he would fetch a strong vine to pull him out. He lowered the vine, and as Asibo grabbed it, Anansi quickly tied the vine to a tree, lifting the leopard upside down by his legs. Asibo roared in anger, realizing he had been tricked, but Anansi smiled and carried him off to Nyame as his second prize. The last task was the hardest. Mmaboro the hornets were fierce and dangerous. Their sting was deadly, and no one dared go near their hive. But Anansi had another clever idea. He filled a gourd with water and poured some over himself as if rain had fallen. Then he climbed to the hornet's nest and splashed water on it, shouting, "What terrible rain! You will all drown if you stay out here." The hornets buzzed in confusion, and Anansi offered them a safe place: his empty gourd. "Come inside," he said. "You'll be safe from the storm." The hornets flew inside gratefully, and once they were all in, Anansi quickly sealed the gourd with a plug of leaves. The hornets were trapped. Anansi laughed and carried them off to Niamh. When Anansi brought all three creatures before Niamh, the sky god was amazed. No one had ever done what Anansi had done. Niamh declared that from that day forward, the stories of the world would belong to Anansi and his children. That is why, to this day, stories told across Africa and the Caribbean are called Anansi stories. They are tales of cleverness, courage, and the power of the mind over brute strength. But Anansi's adventures didn't end there. He continued to teach lessons through his mischief. One of the most famous tales tells how Anansi tried to hoard all the wisdom of the world in a pot. After Niamh shared the stories, Anansi wanted to gather all the wisdom from people everywhere and keep it for himself. He went from village to village, collecting bits of wisdom and putting them in a large pot. When he thought he had gathered all the wisdom in the world, he tied the pot around his neck and decided to hide it high up in a tree where no one could reach it. He tried to climb, but the pot kept slipping and bumping against his chest. His son Entikuma watched from below and called out, "Father, why don't you tie the pot on your back instead?" Anansi grew angry that his son had given him such a clever idea. How can it be that after I have gathered all the world's wisdom, my little son still knows something I do not? In his frustration, Anansi dropped the pot, and it broke into pieces. The wisdom inside scattered across the world, landing in rivers, forests, and mountains. That is why today no one person is the wisest of all. Everyone has a bit of wisdom. This story reminds us of one of the most beautiful lessons from African folklore, that wisdom is not meant to be hoarded. It grows when shared. Anansi's pride and greed almost caused him to lose everything, but in the end, his mistake brought balance to the world. In another tale, Anansi wanted to bring rain to his village during a long drought. He went to the sky god again, asking for rain, but the god told him he would have to earn it. Anansi was told to help those in need, for kindness would bring blessings. On his journey, he met a hungry bird, a dying tree, and a poor woman. At first, Anansi ignored them, thinking only of himself. But when he saw how much they suffered, he decided to help each one. He fed the bird, watered the tree, and gave food to the woman. When he finally returned home, the clouds gathered and rain poured from the sky. The sky god told Anansi that his acts of kindness had touched the heavens. From then on, Anansi learned that true wisdom is not just cleverness. It is compassion. Over time, Anansi became a symbol of resilience and intelligence. His stories traveled from Africa to the Caribbean through the transatlantic slave trade, where enslaved people carried their culture and stories with them. In the Caribbean, Anansi became Aunt Nancy, still a spider, still wise, but sometimes taking a more human form. His tales were a way for people to keep their traditions alive and to remind each other that no matter how small or oppressed they might be, cleverness and courage could help them survive. Anansi's adventures often reveal the complex nature of human behavior. Sometimes he is selfish, sometimes generous. Sometimes his tricks hurt others, and sometimes they help. But each story leaves a mark, a mirror for us to see our own flaws and strengths. In this way, Anansi becomes not just a spider in folklore, but a reflection of humanity itself, our ambition, pride, wit, and ability to learn from mistakes. In one of the later tales, Anansi meets Turtle at a dinner by the river. Anansi invites Turtle to eat, but plays a trick by eating quickly and leaving none for his guest. Turtle, wise and calm, later invites Anansi to his home under the water. When Anansi tries to join, he finds that he cannot sink because of his light spider body. Turtle kindly suggests he put stones in his pockets, and Anansi does. But when he finally reaches the bottom, Turtle tells him to wash his hands before eating. When Anansi tries, the stones fall, and he floats back up. By the time he gets back down again, Turtle has finished the food. Anansi learns a taste of his own trickery and realizes that every trickster eventually meets someone wiser. Through these stories, we see how Anansi's character evolves. He is not just a mischief maker, but a teacher through contradiction. Every wrong he commits turns into a lesson. Every clever trick that backfires shows the balance of life. That's why generations continue to tell his stories, to laugh, to learn, and to remember that intelligence without humility can lead to downfall. Anansi's stories are powerful because they speak to people of all ages. For children, they are fun and imaginative tales of animals talking and magic unfolding. For adults, they hold deeper meanings about life, morality, and social order. They reflect a world where cunning can triumph over power, where intelligence can challenge authority, and where even the smallest voice can make a difference. As centuries passed, Anansi's wisdom continued to travel across the world. In Jamaica, his stories became part of the oral tradition, often told around fires at night. In Suriname and Guyana, he became a hero of resistance, symbolizing survival through cleverness. Even in modern literature and animation, Anansi appears as a reminder that the mind is the greatest tool for freedom. The Adventures of Anansi, a spider's wisdom, remains timeless because its themes are universal. We all face challenges that seem too big, people who seem too powerful, and situations that appear impossible to overcome. But through Anansi, we are reminded that intelligence, creativity, and courage can overcome almost anything. He teaches us to look beyond fear, to think differently, and to never underestimate ourselves. And perhaps the greatest wisdom of all from Anansi's adventures is that life is not about how strong you are, but how smart you choose to be. Whether it's outwitting the python, catching the leopard, or learning to share wisdom with others, every story about Anansi carries a spark of truth about the world and about us. So, as we finish exploring the adventures of Anansi, a spider's wisdom, we can take away one final message. True power lies not in strength, wealth, or size, but in the ability to think, adapt, and learn. Anansi may be small, but his stories have woven a web that connects generations, cultures, and hearts across the world. His adventures remind us that wisdom, once shared, becomes eternal. Thank you for watching and spending time diving into the rich world of African folklore with me. If you enjoyed this journey into the clever world of Anansi, make sure to like the video, share it with friends, and subscribe for more incredible tales of wisdom and wonder. Until next time, remember, no matter how small you feel, your mind can change the world, just like Anansi, the spider who taught us the true meaning of wisdom.